So if you want to use both
All right.
ways.
What's going on, guys?
All right.
Let's you want to start out with everyone's like little like 30-second spiel on like whether focusing on being competitive in a global market, everybody's like personal stake in it, go positive and negative. Just real quick, to get like a general feel of like where everybody is. So, does anybody want to start with that? Go ahead.
I'll start. So I do agree with this statement that we should stay competitive in the global economy, but I think that the implications that points towards students and their interests in America isn't really prudent to kind of the whole individualistic mentality that Americans like to hold. For example, if we kind of forced everyone to have mathematical and scientific backgrounds, then everyone's true interests would kind of be diminished, which isn't really like the American way. So I think that has its pros and cons.
That's good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's obviously very important to stay competitive just because, like, I mean, America prides itself on being the best at basically everything, so you can't fall behind and be expected to be a world power, whatnot. But there's also that individualism thing that he went about, that everyone sort of likes to do their own thing, and being forced to do so sort of like clashes with the American way. We have rights, we're going to do what we want, we don't want people telling us what to do. So.
I think Device said it all. It's important to be competitive in the global economy, but economics and business don't necessarily align everyone's interests, and it would definitely make it difficult for students whose interests lie elsewhere to graduate or complete college and get a degree. So, I mean, there are pros and cons to both, but yeah, they said it all. It's really important to compete, but it makes it difficult for some students.
Yeah, I agree with Devin. I know that if we had to take like all science and math courses, myself included, would not finish college. So I think it's important, like, not only to be competitive, but to have a high graduation rate. And I think other fields are just as important. I mean, we do have a lot of science and engineers and like entrepreneurs, but you can't force people to be those things because we're not American anymore.
It's important to be well-rounded as well.
That's
so
true.
If we're just like one side thing,
One-dimensional is never a good thing.
That's true.
then maybe we can't compete.
Kelly, are you talking or are you just? All right.
Stay in the background. I really like it.
All right. All right. So let's go into why is it important to stay competitive in a global market? Like what do we gain out of being competitive? If we just take care of I mean, technically we could also. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but if we just took care of ourselves, is that also being competitive, or is taking care of ourselves anti-competitive and just worrying about ourselves? Like, I don't know if you guys want to comment on that.
Well, in the past century, we maintained this status as kind of like a world superpower, and everyone kind of like looks to America as like the industrial powerhouse. And according to these statistics, we're beginning to get more foreign students in America that have kind of contributed to that powerhouse image. So in a sense, if you're going to be nationalistic in a sense, we're kind of letting other countries overpower our control in the world by kind of dropping our competitiveness and just kind of going on our own route. So in a sense, we could lose that world super our status that all Americans know and love, and I mean, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not sure, but I'd like to think that all Americans like a position of power.
All right. Let's go off of that. Is the American, I guess we'll call it thirst, for lack of a better word, for I guess control almost, or power, competition in global markets, is that a good or bad thing?
I mean, it's a good mindset to want to succeed and be powerful, but if it overshadows our self-interest or our our goal as a nation to just like be better than we already are, and maybe we should kind of let that like we're the best kind of mentality go and focus on ourselves and focus on our like students who are here and get them and help them excel, and in focusing on ourselves first, then we'll be able to become more powerful and compete globally.
I think America it's put itself in sort of a tight spot because in the past we've always sort of paraded ourselves as like this world superpower and look at America, we're the greatest and whatnot. That if we were to stop playing that role, other countries would sort of look like, what is America doing? We're not really used to seeing it like this. Why is it not being like it usually is? So it's sort of like I think you could lose credibility if you just decided to switch gears immediately and be like, well, we're just going to worry about ourselves and all you guys can do your own thing. So
I think the key distinction to make is that while like there is this whole thing, the idea behind innovation is like creating a need for the public that didn't already exist, so that kind of like consumes the masses. It is important to say that we shouldn't be really making advancements just for the sake of making technological advancements. We should be doing what's prudent for our public. So yeah, not wasting resources just to kind of maintain that competitive edge, but really utilizing those resources in a way that's beneficial to both our budget and the sake of our civilization.
Going, like you said, you don't think that advancement for the sake of advancement is like, I don't really know what you mean.
I mean, like, as Americans, we shouldn't be attempting to create these new inventions or new technologies just to keep up with the amount of advancements that other countries have made if the need for those useless inventions isn't there. But it does work. Like you see with the whole kind of Apple Mac craze that has kind of taken over in the past 10 years. We didn't even think that something like an iPad would be necessary before it was invented. When it was invented, and now people deem it extremely necessary.
Created the need for it.
Taking notes and stuff, that is good. But I feel like a plethora of those kinds of inventions could just lead to the demise of us because overuse of that kind of budget wouldn't really prove.
Yeah, and what it makes up for economically sometimes isn't, I guess, rational. Is that good?
Right.
You have anything, Colin?
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like as a country we're founded upon the people's interest, and like, if we go against that by telling them what they have to be interested in, then we're not the best in that sense, because we've always prided ourselves in freedom of what we want to do and how we want to spend our lives, and I think that's also an important thing to be successful at.
And also, going with that, if we gear education and our jobs toward people who are interested in math and science, and like it says here, give scholarships and low interest loans to those students, other students will be kind of left by the wayside, and then our job market might not be as
That's good. Let's go off that a little bit too. Let's say like if we really focus on staying competitive in a global market, what are we giving up? Ethically, I'm not going to give you. But there's a lot of other stuff. So what do you guys think we also give up?
maybe some of our culture, like those students who are interested in math and the arts won't have as many opportunities, so then we'll kind of lose our culture.
The name of land of opportunity would sort of fade out a little bit just because you're no longer saying like everyone has an equal opportunity. You're saying these few groups of students have more of an opportunity just because we need to stay competitive. And that would definitely be a credibility loss, I think.
That's undermined.
I think that while like the technological advancements have like made our country thrive, there's also another aspect to like being an American, which is inherent in like the study of humanities, like the study of history, for example, kind of like defines what our country was and like how it was founded. And you know, if we started moving more into the math and science realm of it, while there have been math and science developments since the founding of our country, I think we kind of lose the values that our country was founded upon, in the sense of different spheres of ethics, different like ways of communication, and then like again, in a different sphere of things, like the whole business aspect. I know we talked about like a lot of, well, I talked about last time that in my engineering class we had someone come in and teach the engineers how to make presentations, and I think that those kinds of skills, those skills that allow someone to be personable and really talk through a business matter is almost a lot more valuable than the actual technical skills themselves, because technical skills can pretty much be taught to any extent, but the personable skills, it's a lot more kind of in your nature rather than something that can be taught.
Take a lot more time to and everything.
I agree. You can have all the skills in the world, but if you're not personable and you can't communicate with others, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
In the real world, because what the real world is interviews and interacting with others, and I think that's really important, and maybe that should be taught earlier on in college. We need to maybe focus our high school education toward like basic life skills rather than just getting into college.
It's always been something interesting to me, like how these schools work. Just because we go to these schools and we take these classes, and they in high school they force you to take like certain classes and where here you have more freedom, but like the thing is, in high school you would think that they would try to teach you some of those life skills, like maybe how to balance a checkbook or something like that. Like I'm sure people never learned how to do their taxes in high school, and that's something pretty important once you turn 18 and start going to college, getting jobs and whatnot, and then you don't know how to do your taxes. And it's like, well, I spent 12 weeks in sewing class. Ooh,
yeah.
Thanks, school. I don't know how to balance a checkbook though.
That's the thing. Like they give you options in high school, which is great. Like you should. Like my school personally, like we had electives. We could choose to take finance classes, but they weren't mandatory. And so I didn't take them because they had no interest to me. But if I was forced to take them, then maybe I would know how to do the life skills that we need. So keep the options open, but make some things mandatory, such as...
Or maybe like narrow the options a little.
Yeah.
Like my electives, I took a metals class and made jewelry.
Yeah.
That helped me not at all.
Really?
It said metal arts, and I was like, sweet, there's swords and stuff.
Swords.
And then my friend was in there, he's like, yeah, this is a jewelry class. And like, he wouldn't let me even switch out, so.
Oh man.
I took sewing.
Yeah, that like we were forced to take sewing
You were?
in 7th grade. Yeah.
How about, alright, so we definitely like criticize like forcing math and science a lot, but let's talk about some of the pros about, I guess not forcing math and science, but putting an emphasis on it in colleges, maybe even earlier on in high school. I guess this is basically, mainly focusing on higher education, but what are some like pros that would be enforcing?
Math and science is everywhere. I mean, you have to know some about it, or else you're just not going to survive.
It's like a this is my opinion. I just want to stress that math and science is sort of the future. Like math and science is what makes these technologies and whatnot, and what keeps people advanced and what keeps people up to date on what's going on in the world. Yes, English and humanities are important. Me personally, I don't think they're as important. It's close. But the thing is, like, history isn't going to, it's going to help people learn about what happened in the past, but it doesn't really help people advance. And I think that's what modern life is all about, is going forward, not necessarily looking from behind. Yes, you can look from behind and learn from the past and learn not to make the same mistakes. Yes, it's very important, but you can't move forward without those fields. So I think, if there's any emphasis put, just a tiny bit, but I don't know, that's just me.
Yeah. So if they were mutually exclusive, You would go with math and science.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to like go the opposite way on that?
I like personally don't like math and science very much,
Okay.
but I do agree that it's so necessary for our economy in order to compete. And if they were mutually exclusive, like I would want to lean towards humanities and arts, but I guess in order to really succeed or compete, I would kind of have to go towards math and some things like that.
I'm kind of in the same school of thought as Khalil. I mean, I'm pretty biased.
Engineering bias majors.
I have an engineering major. But with that said, I didn't choose to be an engineer with the aim of becoming an engineer. I actually chose to be an engineer just to get that technical background. Because reading up on different majors, it appeared as if engineers were provided this whole different sphere of opportunities that perhaps wouldn't be able to be reached by another major, perhaps considering psychology or something like that. So, with that being said, I think that people with engineering and math and science
Alright, folks,
backgrounds
so,
aren't necessarily always
It's gonna be time for the second moderators to take over, so if you can kind of work on the transitions and make sure you continue with, so the recorders now become the moderators and the moderators now become the recorders, so that you can continue with the deliberations.